One thing I'm already noticing about this project is how quickly it becomes routine. Sitting down, opening the document, and allowing whatever thoughts are present to surface. There is still no strict structure, just the constraint of time. 1 hour. And the intention to remain honest about what is happening. Sometimes honesty does not look coherent. Sometimes honesty looks fragmented. And that is still worth documenting. Something I find myself thinking about today is the relationship between belief systems and personal identity. Many people inherit a religious framework from childhood and then later begin adjusting parts of it. Sometimes slowly, sometimes abruptly. For me, there are elements of Catholicism that remain culturally meaningful. Even if I don't fully align with all of the doctrinal claims. Human beings often move between frameworks: religious, philosophical, scientific, searching for models that help them interpret experience. No single framework seems capable of explaining everything, and perhaps that is okay. When I describe myself as a secular humanist, what I am really expressing is a concern for human well-being that does not depend on supernatural justification. The core idea is simple. Human flourishing matters. Not only for individuals, but for humanity as a whole. One tension that arises quickly is how economic systems influence the way we measure value. Money is often treated as though it reflects intrinsic worth, but in reality, Money is a symbolic system. It coordinates behavior, but does not necessarily measure goodness or meaning or dignity. And yet, it strongly shapes how opportunities are distributed. This creates ethical questions that are still unresolved. As with yesterday, uncertainty about perception continues to be present. I want to emphasize that documenting a thought does not necessarily mean asserting that the thought is objectively correct. It means the thought exists as part of subjective experience. Human minds are pattern detection systems. Sometimes we detect patterns that are accurate for the most part. Yet sometimes we detect patterns that are coincidental. Sometimes we detect patterns because we are searching for coherence in situations that feel ambiguous. Writing allows those interpretations to exist in a stable form where they can later be revisited. Humans naturally create narratives. We connect events, songs, interactions, memories into stories that help us make sense of our lives. Music, in particular, can feel highly personal because lyrics often describe emotional states that are widely shared. When a song resonates strongly, it can feel as though it was written specifically for us. But part of the reason music connects so widely is precisely because it expresses experiences that many people recognize. Longing, uncertainty, hope, loss, ambition. These are nearly universal. Sometimes resonance can feel uncanny, but resonance alone does not necessarily imply direct intention. It often reflects shared emotional vocabulary. Periods of isolation can amplify interpretive intensity. When we spend long stretches of time inside our own thoughts, those thoughts can begin to loop. Ideas connect to other ideas, sometimes forming elaborate structures. Writing can interrupt that loop. It externalizes the structure, and once externalized, the structure can be examined. Even gently questioned. Part of the motivation behind sharing this process publicly is the hope that communication reduces isolation. Not necessarily immediate connection, but the possibility of connection. Because sometimes the act of articulating experience already changes the experience itself. Even if no one responds immediately, the act of expression, still has value. It introduces distance between the observer and the thought. That distance can create room for reflection. One theme that appears repeatedly is the question of agency. To what extent are we directing our lives? And to what extent are we responding to forces outside of our control? Every person encounters constraints. Biological constraints, economic constraints, social constraints. But within those constraints, there is often still some capacity for choice. Even small choices can accumulate over time. Choosing to write for an hour each day is one such small choice. Another tension emerges between feeling insignificant and feeling overly significant. Both extremes can distort perception. Most human lives are simultaneously ordinary and meaningful. Meaning does not necessarily require a uniqueness on a global scale. Meaning can arise from relationships, creativity, persistence, curiosity. Sometimes the challenge is not discovering importance, but calibrating how we interpret it. Uncertainty does not automatically imply danger. Uncertainty is often simply the starting point for investigation. The goal of this project is not to resolve everything immediately. It is to create continuity, a sequence of observations across time. Patterns may become clearer after many days, or they may not. But the process itself remains worthwhile. This is only the second entry. Already, the act of writing daily is beginning to reveal recurring themes like belief, identity, meaning, connection. Tomorrow may introduce entirely different questions, or the same questions from a slightly different angle. Either way, the process continues. Day 2 ends here.